While trekking through the untamed wilderness of California, a man suddenly becomes startled by an ear-piercing screech echoing from a nearby ravine. What he discovers defies belief, and his ensuing emotional response is bound to tug at your heartstrings. Initially, Daniel Harris mistook the harrowing sound for the cries of an infant. He abruptly halted in his tracks, scanning his surroundings in disbelief. It seemed inconceivable. He found himself 2 miles away from civilization on the challenging Lookout Trail, ascending the rugged Sierra Buttes. Surely, no one would embark on such a demanding hike with a tiny baby in tow. Yet, the high-pitched wail persisted, concluding with a chilling guttural moan. Daniel shook his head, dismissing the possibility of it being an actual baby. Nevertheless, whatever was producing that distressing noise appeared to be in grave peril, or so he suspected. And so, driven by a sense of duty, he resolved to investigate, fully aware that he might soon find himself screaming in a similar state of distress. For 2 nights in a row, the people in Downeyville, California, had been upset because they were seeing a lot of coyotes near the town. Some of their pets had gone missing, and they found coyotes' droppings and paw prints everywhere, especially near the river and the hiking trails. As Daniel was trying to climb up to a higher part of the trail by using a big rock, he heard that strange sound again. In his mind, he imagined a small animal being attacked by a coyote. That weird scream echoed once more, and it sounded even more urgent this time. He figured out that the sound was coming from a deep, narrow valley on his right. Daniel knew that place. There was a creek called Broad Creek flowing down that valley. Whatever was making that noise was down there. When he got to the spot where he could go down into the valley, Daniel stopped for a moment. The path leading down was very steep and went almost straight down for about 100 yards before it leveled out near the creek. There was nothing to hold onto or support him on the way down. No plants, no rocks. It was just him and his ability to stay steady on the slippery ground. Daniel double-checked his gear to make sure everything was securely strapped to his body. The scream pierced the air again, but this time it was fainter, more panicked, even perhaps less alive. He thought to himself. Daniel's first step was fine, so was his second, but on the third, the loose soil gave way beneath his foot, causing him to lose his balance. He swung his arms to regain his balance, fully aware that an injury to a knee or ankle out here would dump him into the deep end of a whole lot of trouble. He made it to the creek's bank without further accidents and checked the ground ahead of him carefully. That's when he saw them. Coyote tracks all over the place. The coyotes that made these tracks were not walking in a straight line. They were milling around, dashing into the undergrowth at the edge of the creek, and then out again onto the sandy bank, hunting. Daniel rounded a bend and immediately noticed 2 coyotes dashing in and out of the shallow water. And there it was again, the harrowing sound of a distressed animal, but it was fainter than it had been before. Instinctively, Daniel knew that whatever it was dying. The sound drove the coyotes into a frenzy. Something was clearly injured or helpless, and that meant it was easy prey. They didn't even notice Daniel. Daniel slipped off his hiking backpack, then he took off his hat. He gripped the pack tightly in one hand and the hat in the other, then he walked briskly towards the 2 coyotes. When they noticed him, he started swinging his pack and hat around as if he were a helicopter and shouted at the top of his voice. The coyotes backed off some, and Daniel jogged up to the bank of the creek. 2 rocks held down a large hessian sack. The opening had been knotted close with a length of crude twine. His blood froze in his veins when he realized that something was struggling inside. He scrambled over and immediately set about untying the knot. Once he'd managed to free the sack, he picked it up and took it to dry land, still careful to hold the opening shut. He had no idea what was inside it, and that was his next concern. What was the creature in the sack? It could be a ground squirrel or even a small badger. Whatever it was struggled profusely, so it was difficult to estimate the creature's size. Daniel found a spot where he could place the sack, an open area with enough room for him to get out of the way of potential danger when he once she opened the sack. He held the sack closed with one foot and stood upright. It was now or never. When he bent down and slowly pulled the mouth of the sack open, Daniel could not believe his eyes. Of all the things he imagined the creature inside the sack could be, this had never crossed his mind. It was a large domestic cat, drenched almost frozen from the cold, and obviously on its last legs. The cat stopped moving and simply gazed at him. It seemed comfortable around people, indicating it wasn't a stray. Someone had abandoned it. What was worse, they had done it in a terrible way. Tears welled up in Daniel's eyes. How could someone be so cruel? The cat's paws were injured, with 2 claws missing, likely from struggling against the sack. It was soaked and trembling all over. Daniel held the cat close to his chest to share his warmth, thinking about what to do next. This cat needed urgent veterinary care. It was close to death. He removed his hiking coat, wrapped the frail cat inside, put on his backpack, adjusted his hat, and hurried towards the main road. It took him an hour to reach the main road, but he didn't dare check on the cat inside the coat. He was afraid of what he might find. Deep inside, Daniel didn't think the cat had much of a chance. It was really cold, and it had been in the freezing water for who knows how long. He didn't believe the cat could make it, but he was determined to do whatever he could to help. In just a few minutes, he managed to get a passing vehicle to stop. He quickly explained the situation to the driver, who invited him in and drove to the town as fast as possible, even faster than what would impress a police officer. Inside the vet's office, Daniel placed the hiking coat on the examination table. The vet carefully unwrapped it and began checking the cat. First, he listened to the cat's heart, and then he examined it from its head to its tail. When he turned back to Daniel, he had a serious look on his face. He didn't think the poor tabby cat would recover from its tough experience, and suggested that the most humane thing might be to put it to sleep right away. But Daniel didn't agree with that. He offered to pay for any treatment the cat needed and pleaded with the vet to at least give it a chance. Meanwhile, he promptly reported the incident to local authorities, only to receive disheartening news. They informed him that there were no surveillance cameras in the woods or the vicinity. It appeared that anyone could have heartlessly abandoned the unfortunate cat. Moreover, due to the sack being submerged for an extended period, the prospects of retrieving meaningful fingerprints from the fabric were nil. Alone and forsaken by the world, the cat's future seemed bleak. Once it recuperated and was discharged from the clinic, it would likely find itself confined to a shelter, assuming it ever left. This situation continued to gnaw at Daniel's conscience. 3 weeks later, as he ascended the stairs to his cottage bedroom, a heartwarming sight greeted him. A smile graced his face as he beheld the ginger cat he had rescued from the harsh elements and the threat of coyotes. Nestled in the center of the bed, the feline now known as Jasper appeared entirely at ease, as if he owned the place. Jasper met Daniel's gaze, initiated a contented purr, and gently closed his eyes. He had discovered his rightful place in the world once more, and this time he intended to hold on to it for the rest of his days. What you think of Daniel's action? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you.